Yes.
Another device of mental ignorance by which the mental being becomes aware of himself, not only of the observations and acts of his activity, but of that which experiences them. At first, it might seem as if the ego sense were actually constituted by memory, as if it were memory that told us it is the same, it is the same I who was angry some time ago, and I'm again or still angry now. But in reality, all that the memory can tell us by its own power is that it is the same limited field of conscious activity in which the same phenomenon has occurred. What happens is that there is a repetition of the mental phenomena of that wave of becoming in the mind substance of which the mind sense is immediately aware. Memory comes in to link these repetitions together and enables the mind sense to realize that it is the same mind substance which is taking the same dynamic form and the same mind sense which is experiencing it. The ego sense is not a result of memory or built by memory, but already and always there is there as a point of reference or as something in which the mind sense concentrates itself so as to have a co- coordinate coordinate center instead of sprawling incoherently all over the field of experience. Ego memory reinforces this concentration and helps to maintain it, but does not constitute it. Possibly in the lower animal, the sense of ego, the sense of individuality would not, if analyzed, go much further than a sensational, imprecise, or less precise realization of continuity and identity and separateness from others in the moments of time. But in man, there is, in addition, a coordinating mind of knowledge, which, basing itself on the united action of the mind sense and the memory, arrives at the distant idea, while it retains also the first constant intuitive perception of an ego which senses, feels, remembers, thinks, and which is the same whether it remembers or does not remember. This conscious mind substance, it says, is always that of one and the same conscious person who feels, ceases to feel, remembers, forgets, is superficially conscious, sinks back from superficial consciousness into sleep. He is the same before the organization of memory and after it, in the infant and in the dotard, in sleep and in waking, in apparent consciousness and apparent unconsciousness. He and no other did the acts which he forgets as well as the acts which he remembers. He is persistently the same behind all changes of his becoming or his personality. This action of knowledge in man, this coordinating intelligence, this formulation of self consciousness and self experience is higher than the memory ego and sense ego of the animal, and therefore we may suppose nearer to real self knowledge. We may even come to realize, if we study the weight as well as the uncovered action of nature, that all ego sense, all ego memory has at its back is in fact a pragmatic contrivance of a secret coordinating power or mind of knowledge present in the universal conscious force, of which the reason in man is the overt form at which our evolution arrives, a form still limited and imperfect in its modes of action and constituting principle. There is a subconscious knowledge even in the inconscient, a great intrinsic reason in things which impose coordination. That is to say, a certain rationality upon the widest movements of the universal becoming.
Yeah. Big para and very interesting, but we have to concentrate a lot to understand what he's saying. Okay, so there are two ways of doing it. First, we will look at it in summary, then we'll go into detail because he is telling you what the ego sense is in man, in animal, in the infant, in the newborn baby, or the old man who is a dotard, is an old man who has lost his sense of personality. Okay, that is what they call he becomes senile. Okay, so that is the what he is discussing. So I'll do one thing. I am reading out the summary of what he is saying here, and then we'll go into detail. Okay, it's very interesting, but not very easy to understand because we have to be very concentrated and listen to what he's saying. So I start. Okay, I'm reading now. Okay, so another device that nature bequeaths to man in the ignorance is the ego. In the ignorance, man is given. There are many things that nature gives man. One is ego, the other is memory, okay? Some sort of mind also develops. So this is just 1 second, I've lost the page, I can see, 537. Yeah. Yes, that's right. So he's saying that there are many things that are given to man. So another device that nature gives to man in the ignorance is the ego. Now, is the ego there in the animal? Is the ego there in the stone? Is it there in the caterpillar, the cat, the dog? So there also the ego slowly develops. And slowly you become conscious of your individuality. And finally at the human level, where you are a yogi, then the ego is a scaffolding which you don't need anymore, and it is replaced by the true individual. And the true individual can be the psychic or the self. So ego disappears. So this is what he's saying. We'll read the summary first. Okay? Another device that nature gives to man in the ignorance is the ego. Nature does not give it when you are above the nature. The ego disappears. Basically, the ego is that power of ignorance in man that makes him conscious of his own unique individuality, which is separate from all others. You must not think the ego is sense of superiority, okay, and all that. Those are the consequences of the ego. The ego is that which makes you feel separate from everybody else. You see things as though there is me and there is a not me. So everything that is a not me is the result of ego. Ego is that which makes you feel separate. Actually, you are not separate at all. Okay, it's like you are a wave in the sea. Okay, but you still think that you are independent of the sea. And what is the sea? There is a sea of matter, and your body has come from there. There is a sea of prana, a huge infinite sea of prana, and your vital has come from there. And your mind plane of consciousness is there, universal mind plane. Your mind has come from there. Even your soul has come from the divine soul, which is infinite. So you feel yourself to be separate from everybody else, which is absolutely not true at all. And when you go to the self, then you realize that you are everything. The whole cosmos is within you. So ego is very necessary in the ignorance. When we are in the practical world at level 1. Okay. Basically, I'm reading the summary again. Basically, the ego is that power of ignorance in man. Note, okay, power of ignorance. Everything is a power. It is made. It's not something naturally that comes up. It is a made thing in a man that makes him conscious of his own unique individuality, which is separate from all others. The ego becomes aware of all objects, events, occasions, and actions without and within the consciousness. So what he means is that in the animal is only conscious of things outside itself. But it is not conscious of things within itself. When it gets angry, we know that cats and dogs and animals can get angry, but they are not conscious of their anger. It is something natural. Okay, so but in man, he is conscious of all objects outside himself and also events and things within himself. He is conscious of his anger, he is conscious of his love, he is conscious of his lust, he is conscious of his hate. He is conscious within and without. Okay, this was a lesson. Grows aware of all observed phenomena, but the ego grows aware of all observed phenomena, but also the observer. That's the speciality of man. The ego becomes really developed in man. In the animal, it is not. The beginning of the ego may be there, but not the ego. It's in man. Ego is necessarily a mental formation. Okay. So then he says, at first, this may confuse. We may confuse ego with memory, because both give sense of continuity and linked sequences, as well as the extended continuance of one's own identity. So we must not confuse ego and memory, because ego can stay in old age, memory goes away. We know that, okay? Dementia comes, but the ego has not gone. I have a case at home, he's like that. Memory is gone completely, dementia. He doesn't remember anything at all, but the ego is there. Okay. How do I know the ego is there? Oh, there are so many incidents that happen. Okay. So anyway, because both give the sense of continuity and linked sequence, as well as the extended continuance of one's own identity. But truly, the two are quite different. Even if the power of memory dissolves, that of ego continues to exist, as in dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay. So I'm not saying that, I'm giving examples. As discussed in the previous paragraph, there is gross substance, matter, there is pranic substance, vital, and thought substance, mind. And all events are vibrations of various intensities and amplitudes in these seas, these oceans of the three substances. The individual becomes aware of some of these and thinks they are his own acts, emotions, and thoughts. Actually, it is not like that. Actually, it is nature that is creating all these vibrations. Mostly, man is blissfully unaware of these vibrations on account of limitation and ignorance. Memory only links these various vibrations, whether vital or mental, which sense mind, manas, experiences. The power of memory is limited to only the linkage of separate event vibrations. Okay? So, but ego is something else. It's a concentrated point of reference which becomes the coordinating center. If the ego is not there, you will be like a leaf in the wind. No purpose, no aim, no consciousness of yourself. But those who are well-developed personalities, they have a strong ego and they are not very easy to deal with. But ego is something else. It's a concentrated point of reference which becomes the coordinating center. Your thoughts and your emotions and your body, they all what the ego gives you a sense of separateness. In mind consciousness, and which refers all acts, events, emotions, thoughts, occasions to itself, so as not to sprawl all over in a dispersed, diluted manner. Otherwise, everything would be separate. Events would be separate. Events you would not remember. So all these things, separate things. Today I met somebody, yesterday I met somebody else. But who is that somebody who is meeting? The ego is very necessary for that. Okay, that's what said this. Analysis may show us that this coordinating mind is mostly absent in lower animals. There is a memory of events in animals, but not an inward-looking awareness of its own separate individuality. It is aware of things outside itself. It sees things outside, it sees food and knows it has to take it. It sees other animals. If it's an enemy, it attacks. If it's a friend, it goes near it. So mostly it is the observation of outside events and things for the animals. Analysis may show that this coordinating mind is mostly absent in lower animals. There is a memory of events in animals, but not an inward-looking awareness of its own separate individuality, distinct from others. Okay. Then, to put it in other words, in matter, there is physical individuality, which is the atom. Okay, but there is no ego there. There is only the physical individuality, the atom. In plants and lower animals, there is a life awareness, which we may call outward-oriented life individuality. Okay? It is outward-oriented. A plant does not look at itself, not as an animal, at a lower level. Worms and caterpillars, all these insects, they don't look at themselves. They only look outside and they react to the environment. So that's what we call outward-oriented life individuality, but not an inward-looking awareness of its own individuality as separate from others. In man, since he has reason, pure mind, buddhi, he has a coordinating mind and ego, which is an inward-looking awareness of his own separate identity. But here, ego is really a reflection, a shadow of the real self. The real self is a true individuality, and the true individuality, when it comes down into the ignorance, it becomes a shadow. So that when you realize your true identity, the shadow disappears. The ego disappears when you go into the spiritual planes of consciousness. But here, ego is really a reflection, a shadow of the real self. In the silent mind of the yogin, the ego disappears, dissolves into a cosmic vastness, but individuality remains. When you experience the cosmic consciousness, someone is experiencing the cosmic consciousness. So that someone who is not limited to body, mind, life is the true individuality, who is cosmic. Okay? So then next, for man, this sense of ego gives him a sense of continuous identity, whether he remembers events or not, whether he is sleeping or awake. So memory may fail. I don't remember what happened 1 year ago, but my ego has not disappeared. So ego is very necessary for man to centralize his experiences and make him aware of himself. Memory lacks in infancy and dotage. Dotage is old age, when senility comes in. There is no memory. But ego remains always present. Okay? That's the difference between ego and memory. We may note that even in the inconscient, there is a secret knowledge of the self. It is always present, even if somnolent. It awakes in plant and animal, grows more powerful in man, and flowers fully in the sage. So, we may say that the coordinating mind is nearer to true knowledge than the ego and the manas. This is what he has said in the paragraph. Okay? We have got 15 minutes, so, but this is essentially what he's saying in the paragraph. He's making a clear distinction between ego and memory. Remember the chapter, memory, ego, and self-experience. Okay. So now, if you want, we can start reading each one. With this background, it will be easier to understand what he's saying. Now, I'm reading each sentence. The ego sense is another device of mental ignorance. Only in the ignorance, in the spiritual planes of consciousness, there is no ego. by which the mental being becomes aware of himself, not only of objects, occasions, and acts of the activity, but of that which experiences them. In other words, that which experiences them is the inward, yourself. So you are aware of things outside yourself and you are aware of things inside yourself, which does not happen with animals. They are aware only of the outside. Okay? At first, it may seem as if the ego sense were actually constituted by memory. Okay? As if it was memory that told us it is the same I who was angry some time ago, and I am again or still angry now. So you feel that your sense of being a person is because of memory. But then Surendra is explaining that it is not. And this explanation is quite complicated. Okay, we'll have to see what he's saying. But in reality, all that the memory can tell us by its own power is that it is the same limited field of conscious activity in which the same phenomena has occurred. Okay. What happens is that there is a repetition of the mental phenomena, of that wave of becoming in the mind substance, of which the mind sense is immediately aware. Now, you have to understand this. You are part of the sea, right? You are a wave. You are part of the sea. So, when there is an event in the wave, it's an event which is happening in the sea. So, it is memory that helps you to recover that which is happening in the sea. So, this is memory. So, I will explain. Okay. So, the image of the sea and the individual is very useful, because actually everything is happening only in the sea, and there are many waves. All of us are waves in the sea. And what is that sea? There are three seas actually in the ignorance. There is a sea of matter. The whole cosmos is matter, and your body also is matter. Your body has been fashioned and shaped by nature. Matter has been taken and your body has been created in the womb of your mother. Okay? So it is, you are a wave, your body is a wave in the sea of matter. Similarly, with the vital and the mind. And these waves are born and they disappear. But the sea is always present. That's the interesting thing. So what happens to you individually is actually happening in the sea. And it is memory that repeats the phenomena, and you perceive the same phenomena in the sea. You have to be understanding that. Okay? It is the same I who was angry some time ago, and I am again or still angry now. Then Swami will explain. But in reality, all that the memory can tell us by its own power is that it's the same limited field of conscious activity in which the same phenomena has occurred. So, same limited field of conscious activity, the individual. He has used, but he is using it to make you to explain to you that the individual is not separate. Okay, it's the same limited field of conscious activity. There is a conscious activity everywhere in the universe. You are only a limited field of that, in which the same phenomena has occurred. What happens is that there is a repetition of the mental phenomenon of that wave of becoming in the mind substance. The mind substance is infinite, of which the mind sense is immediately aware. Each individual has got an organ which is called the mind sense, or in our Indian psychology, we call it manas. Manas is different from vital mind, and it's also different from the pure reason. Okay, all are functions of the mind. So mind sense is the lowest. It is that which interprets the senses. Okay. Sense data is supplied to the brain, and the brain interprets that and tells you. When you are a baby, you are seeing your mother, but there is no interpretation. Your mother is just an object you are seeing outside yourself. But when the brain is developed and it can interpret what you're seeing. Then you interpret, oh, this person I see is my mother. That is what I meant by interpretation. Okay. So the baby is seeing a tree and doesn't understand what it is. But when the mind is interpreting that image, he understands it's a tree. Slowly, slowly, the manas starts interpreting images. Okay. So, what happens is that there is a repetition of the mental phenomena of that wave of becoming in the mind substance, of which the mind sense is immediately aware. Memory comes in to link these repetitions together and enables the mind sense to realize that it is the same mind substance which is taking the same dynamic form and the same mind sense which is experiencing it. Okay? So this is what we discussed and this is what we say. Now, also you must know that memory is a very interesting thing. Animals have memory. Okay? A dog buries a bone and knows where it is buried. Next day he goes and collects it. Even crows, they put their food in a tree and next day they'll go and collect them. Because they know where it is. Okay? Elephants know where water is available. They have a memory. Okay? So memory is there in animals. But what happens to memory when you go to the spiritual level of consciousness? That memory becomes very big. It is not limited only to yesterday, day before yesterday, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, and for human beings, 25 years ago, the memory fades. But spiritual plane of consciousness, memory becomes so vast that you remember even your past lives. Okay? So that is memory. That is memory. So memory is something that is a divine gift of sight, the whole sight, but when it comes down into the ignorance, it limits itself only to events in time, and that also very limited time. Okay. So he is saying the ego sense is not the result of memory or built by memory. It is not. But already and always there is a point of reference or a something in which the mind sense concentrates itself so as to have a coordinate center instead of sprawling incoherently all over the field of experience. So if the memory is not there, then you will not remember things at all, what is happening. There won't be a repetition, so you won't remember. That's what happens in dementia. Okay? You don't even know whether you had breakfast or not. You call him a second time, he'll come and have full breakfast again. Okay. Possibly, now, sorry, I'll read a little earlier. Ego sense is not a result of memory or built by memory, but already and always there's a point of reference or as something in which the mind sense concentrates itself so as to have a coordinate center instead of sprawling incoherently all over the field of experience. Ego memory reinforces this concentration and helps to maintain it, but does not constitute it. Possibly, in the lower animal, the sense of ego, the sense of individuality, would not, if analyzed, go much further than a sensational, imprecise, or less precise realization of continuity and identity and separateness from others in the moments. So in the animal, the beginning of a sense of ego is there. That's what it is. But in man, there is in addition a coordinating mind, that which relates all things and gives you a sense of each thing, and you coordinate everything. There is a coordinating mind of knowledge. What happened 10 years ago and what is happening now, you can connect them and see the connection. That's what it meant by coordinating mind of knowledge, which, basing itself on the united action of a mind sense and memory, arrives at the distinct idea, while it retains also the first constant intuitive perception of an ego. Again, Srindra has used a dash dash, which is a parenthetical phrase. So if you want to to understand what he's saying, you read the parenthetical phrase afterwards, but you eliminate the parenthetical phrase and read the text as it should be. And that is, but in man, there is in addition a coordinating mind of knowledge, which, basing itself on the united action of the mind sense and the memory, arrives at the distinctive idea of an ego, which senses, feels, remembers, thinks, and which is the same whether it remembers or does not remember. That's exactly the point. Because in childhood, there is no memory as such. In old age, there is no memory. That's what he said. But the ego is there, while it retains also the first one, which is this conscious mind substance, it says, is always that of one and the same conscious person who feels, ceases to feel, remembers, forgets, is superficially conscious, sinks back from superficial consciousness into sleep. Everything that's happening, you think that it is you who are doing. Actually, it's not you who are doing at all. It's nature which is doing everything. In the infant and the dotard is an old man in his dotage, someone whose age has impaired his intellect. There is a meaning, but there is a dictionary meaning. But nowadays you can say there is a dementia. In sleep and in waking, in apparent consciousness and apparent unconsciousness, the ego is always there. He and no other did the acts which he forgets as well as the acts which he remembers. He is persistently the same. There is the ego. Because the ego is there, you feel persistently the same behind all changes of his becoming or his personality. This action of knowledge in man, this coordinating intelligence, this formation of self-consciousness and self-experience. What's the difference? Self-consciousness and self-experience. Self-consciousness need not be any event. It's just you are aware of yourself. In self-experience, there is an event which has happened and you are remembering that it's yours. It's higher than the memory, ego and sense ego of the animal, and therefore we may suppose nearer to real self-knowledge. So the coordinating mind is very useful. We may even come to realize, if we study the veiled as well as the uncovered action of nature, that all ego sense, all ego memory has at its back is in fact a pragmatic contrivance of a secret coordinating power of mind of knowledge present in the universal conscious force. So Swami is saying something fantastic. He is saying that you have an ego individually, but there is this, the principle of the ego is there in the universe, in the impersonal universe. You would think that ego is a phenomenon of personality. But Swami is saying very clearly, it's in the universal conscious force. It's there in nature. And that is the reason why it coordinates and concentrates into an individual. So whatever is there in the universe, you get a part of that into yourself. It is like salt which is there all over in the sea, but you don't see the salt. But the moment you evaporate it, salt forms. So the individual is a crystal of salt. Okay? But he does not see that that crystal of salt is there everywhere in the universe. Your individual ego is there even as diluted ego principle in the universe. That's what he's saying. It's fantastic what he's saying. Just like your body is universal matter made into a form. Okay? Your vital is universal prana made into your individual vital. Your mind also is the same. Similarly, your ego also is a condensation, a crystallization of universal principle of ego. That's what he's saying. It's fantastic. That is the reason why whatever the individual is and whatever the individual has, He is getting it only from the universe. Whatever he has is in the universe. Okay. There is a whole chapter in that divine, the individual and the universe. How he describes the interaction between the two. So, universal consciousness, of which the reason in the man is the overt form. Okay. Reason in man is the overt form. Overt means expressed very clearly, at which our evolution arrives, a form still limited and imperfect in modes of action and constituting principle. Whatever is there in the universe is there in you, but in man it is still imperfect. But you have to go higher and higher to make it perfect. There is a subconscious knowledge. I've gone beyond my time, but there's just a little more. But basically we have covered, okay, most of it. There's just 2 lines more. There is a subconscious knowledge, even in the inconscient. None of that. Knowledge is in the mind, but knowledge is there in the universe, exactly like the ego. Okay, it's there in the universe, and the universe is creating your mind. So, a subconscious knowledge, where even in the inconscient, a greater intrinsic reason in things which impose coordination, that is to say, a certain rationality, even upon the wildest movements of the universe and becoming. So, difficult paragraph, but I think we have tried to make it as clear as possible. But you have to use your imagination and think constantly of yourself as a wave and the sea. This is very interesting. The wave and the sea is a very powerful image to understand what you really are, your relation with the universe. Okay, so we stop here. Suki, you'll have to make a note. Page
Yes.
539.
Yes.
The importance of memory.
Yes.
We'll take it up. Yeah, we'll take it up tomorrow. Okay. So,
Yes.
au revoir, everybody. I
Thank you,
found-
Rangada.
Thank you, Rangada.
Thank you.